Across the Spider-Verse is the sequel to the highly successful, highly acclaimed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Basically, the gist of this movie is Miles Morales has now been Spider-Man for a little while now. He's, kind of learning how to be a superhero and also maintain, his ordinary life, his relationship with his family. He links back up with Gwen Stacy. She introduces him to the Spider Society that is led by Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. A big threat known as the Spot has arrived. He is a big threat to the Spider-Verse itself, and now Miles Morales has to find a way to stop it while also finding a way to work with this Spider Society. That's the gist of the movie that I can say without really giving anything away. Hopefully I didn't. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, when I went into that for the first time, I really didn't know what to expect. I actually was kind of on the low end of hype when it came to that movie. And when I saw it, it completely blew my mind, as it did everybody else. A great story, wonderful characters, spectacular animation, game-changing animation. And it ended up being one of the best animations and one of the best superhero movies I had ever seen. Genuinely. So yeah, naturally when I heard we were getting a sequel, of course I was hyped for it. I couldn't wait to see where else they could take Miles Morales, where else they could take this universe. The possibilities were just endless. And now that I've seen this movie, and obviously there's been a lot of buzz, there's been a lot of hype, there's been a lot of rave reviews given, but one review I heard in particular was someone out there called this the Empire Strikes Back of this generation. And having seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I can attest to that, because this movie is exactly what a fucking sequel should be, but it never ever is. It just stepped it up in every sense of the word, and this movie is absolutely spectacular. I absolutely adored this movie. From start to finish, I was completely invested in this thing, and I was just gone in this world. I completely escaped into it. And that's what I want from movies. So yeah, here we go. I'm gonna gush about this movie for the duration of this video. If you don't want to hear me do that, you're free to leave, but for anyone else, hey, let's go. First of all, let's start with Miles Morales. One area that I think this movie did that I liked better than the first one is, in this one we actually see Miles Morales as Spider-Man, with his mastered abilities. Because in Into the Spider-Verse, he's learning how to be Spider-Man, he's learning how to use his different powers, how to use his gifts, and it completely worked for that story, sure, but give me the choice. If I'm going to see my Spider-Man with his powers, rather than learning to use his powers, I want to see him use his powers mastered. And this one, he does that. I love the way this movie is shot in that sense, or animated in that sense, I should say. Because in this movie, when he's doing his Spider-Man things, he's moving a lot faster. The animation seems quicker and more fast-paced and just more focused and concentrated and just sick. It was really awesome to see. It was so impressive that they could show in animation form just how much Miles Morales has grown as Spider-Man since we last saw him. I think that's remarkable. Also, a complaint I've heard that some people have is, like, for the first third of this movie, it's not a whole lot of action going on. It's Spider-Man, dealing with his life with his parents, trying to, hide his identity from his parents. But for me, it really worked because, one of the driving forces I think that worked for Into the Spider-Verse was the dynamic he had with his family, namely the dynamic he had with his dad. In this one, though, I feel like they gave Miles' mom a little more time to shine in this movie. And I liked seeing that. I liked seeing that we're giving both parents their moments. There's that one moment, you saw it in the trailer, where, she has that conversation with Miles. It's like, always look out for yourself. Look out for that little boy that you're always going to be to me. It's a really heartfelt moment, and for me, I like seeing that dynamic that Miles has with his parents because it is relatable to a degree. I mean, we've all been teenagers at one point or another, and, during that stage, we probably had times where we fought with our parents or disagreed with our parents. Or hell, if you are a parent, you have kids that are reaching that age, you're discovering that little stage you're having with their kids, and, it's leading to more confrontations and more fights and things like that, but you're ultimately understanding that your kid's growing up. For me, it showed the level of heart that was in this movie, and I really appreciated that. Also, I'm going to say this right now, I love the chemistry between Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy. It's just great. Because in this one, you can tell that a romance is clearly building between them. I mean, we all knew there were signs of it in the first one, but what I like that they're doing is it's starting them out as friends. They're talking to each other, they're connecting about life, connecting about their own journeys as these spider people, struggle and the past they've endured and the loss they've both had. But you definitely see moments here and there where, you know, there is chemistry between them. There's some sort of romance that's building between them. It's easily a relationship that I think everybody is going to get on board with. 100%. And speaking of Gwen Stacy, I'm going to say this right now. I really, really loved her in this movie as Spider-Woman. Because in this one, we delve a lot more into her universe. Basically, like, the loss that she went through and just the relationship that she has with her own father and the people in her universe. Why the friendship she has with Miles means so much to her, because in her case, now she doesn't feel alone. You can see in a lot of ways why she and Miles had the connection that they have. You know, in a lot of ways, they've been through so much of the same thing, and only the two of them can understand each other because of that. I know I've already spent a lot of time on that, but getting into some of the other Spider characters in this movie, I want to touch on some of the new ones that were brought to us. First of all, Hobie, Spider-Punk, voiced by Daniel Kaluuya. This dude was fucking hilarious. He definitely brings that British humor into this movie, and kind of the sense, like, you know, he makes a lot of jokes, but really fast-paced, to the point where you're maybe kind of struggling to keep up with it a little bit. It kind of reminded me a little bit like the humor in the Cornetto film trilogy from Edgar Wright. It's a lot of jokes that come at you at lightning fast speed, and, you know, you're laughing, but you're trying to keep up with it. You're trying to remember each one, or at least, you know, be able to recollect each one. And for me, not only does it make the movie really funny, but I think it brings out one of the things that I think is really going to work with this movie in the long haul, is the fact that there are a lot of jokes and a lot of nostalgia that gets thrown at you in this movie, and because of that, it's going to force you to watch this movie multiple times. Well, not force you, but it will require you to watch it more than once to continue to just love it and appreciate it even more than you may already do. It's like there's so much greatness in this movie that you can't soak it all in with one watch. You're gonna have to just continuously watch it in order to really gain as much as you can from it. Like people who read the Bible say, you gotta read that multiple times to accept everything. You're gonna have to watch this multiple times to really embrace and accept and be enthralled by everything. But yeah, I gotta get into this right now. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac. This character was great. I mean, he's described as the only Spider-Man with no sense of humor. He's super serious. He just leaves destruction wherever he goes, basically. But I really did appreciate his character as the leader of this spider society, because you get where he's coming from. You know, he sees himself as being in charge of making sure the multiverse for all these Spider-Men stays intact and stays together. He is afraid that entire universe is going to crumble. So I understood his character. He's like, certain things have to happen at an exact point in time, have to be like this, because if they do not, the entire multiverse will then be at risk. So yeah, it leaves him and Miles at odds on how to handle things, how to go about saving people and executing certain missions. It's just like, you know, you have two heroes, both want to protect the multiverse, but both see different tactics in going about it. It made really good conflict among the heroes itself, and I like seeing that. It's not like, you know, hey, we're all Spider-Man, let's all just come together for truth and justice. No, there's gonna be some headbutting here, and I like seeing that. I liked seeing that there's gonna be some conflict among the heroes. Getting to the villain of the story. Okay, the Spot. When I first see the Spot in this movie, for me, I was thinking to myself, is this going to be too much of a comic relief villain? Because when you first see this guy, you know, he clearly doesn't know entirely what he's supposed to do. You know, he's supposed to come off as menacing, and, you know, he's not really seemed to be that way. He's kind of being laughed at. He's kind of being used as comic relief in that sense. I'm just like, all right, is this guy ever going to really be a threat? But what this movie does so well is, like, yeah, he starts off, you know, funny and kind of slapstick even a little bit. But as the movie goes along, as he discovers his powers and he discovers what he's capable of doing, you quickly see what exactly he's going to be as a villain to this story. Just how powerful and how much of a threat he is to not just Miles Morales, but the entire Spider Society. Also, again, right here, the action in this movie, it is really exciting. It is really intense. Just the way everything is animated, just action-wise, it's all quick, it's all exciting, it feels like a comic book come to life, just like the last movie did. But I gotta tell you, the tone of not just the action, but the story itself, it's a lot more intense, it's a lot darker, it's a lot deeper than I think the previous movie was, and that's what I really appreciate in this movie here. It went for a more mature route than I think the last Spider-Verse movie did, and that's why I think for me, I think I prefer this movie a little bit more than I do Into the Spider-Verse. It's not afraid to be more emotional. It's not afraid to be more intense. It's not afraid to really show some really tough moments that are maybe a little harder to take in. It really went the extra mile, and I am so happy it did that. And yeah, I need to finally talk about the animation in this movie. I mean, I kind of have a little bit here and there, but let's just really just salivate over it right now. The animation in Across the Spider-Verse, really this Spider-Verse franchise as it is, it was described as a game changer. It absolutely is that. I mean, it is so beautiful to look at. Every single frame is like this beautiful painting. There were countless, and I mean countless moments throughout this movie that there was this shot, there was this scene, there was this clip. I'm just like, I need to snapshot this. I would have turned that into a painting and just hang it in my house. I've always told people before, like, I'm not someone who would really collect movie posters a whole lot. What I would do is I would probably go into some of my favorite movies and I would like pick my favorite scene or my favorite clip or moment from that and then turn that into a poster and hang that in my room or something like that. Really, in Across the Spider-Verse, there are so many moments I could do that. I could make an entire wall of the fucking movie itself and be at peace with that. In fact, be happy with that because of how beautiful it looks. I mean, hell, you're seeing it right now. I mean, since Into the Spider-Verse happened, so many other animated movies are trying to copy the animation style that we have seen in these Spider-Verse movies. And for a lot of them, it has worked for them. It has definitely made them great animated movies in their own way. But now that we're here watching Across the Spider-Verse, you're seeing right now, it's like, yeah, as well as those other movies are doing it, nothing's gonna compare to these Spider-Verse movies. It's like here we are watching the masters at work and it is apparent and it is awesome. I think I saw one critic out there who gave one of the reviews for it and said the MCU should maybe start considering going with this animation style for the future of their franchise because of how well it's working for the Spider-Verse movies. Honestly, I've been a big MCU fan and supporter for the longest time, but you want my honest opinion? If they ever decided to abandon the live action route and go into this kind of animation style, I would be all for that. Because you are starting to see here just how much you can do with animation, just how much more you can do with animation as opposed to live action. Because in live action, if stuff is really absurd and is happening, you know, you're kind of quick to point it out or maybe roll your eyes at it or laugh at it in that sense. In animation, you can really do anything. There's nothing that's off limits. There's nothing that's really too absurd or too extreme. You can throw anything into a movie like this, and if you execute it right, everyone's going to be totally on board with it. You have complete free will in animation movies like this. And I'm going to tell you right now, this movie is completely unpredictable. It throws you with so many twists and turns, and it ends on such a massive cliffhanger. I mean, it's originally called Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. They renamed this one because the third one's going to be Beyond the Spider-Verse, but you can see why, because it ends with not a lot of closure. And I don't mean that in the sense like this movie ends and you are leaving unfulfilled or anything like that. It feels like in a lot of ways how Avengers Infinity War felt. It was a fantastic movie. It fulfilled you in the ways you want to be fulfilled, but it didn't feel like the conclusion to the big picture. This movie does the same thing. I absolutely love this movie. I could watch this movie all the time and I could walk out of it fulfilled, but boy, do I want to see Beyond the Spider-Verse so fucking bad right now. Like, that's just the way this movie ended. There are so many questions. It just leaves you, it just knocks you on your ass completely, and you're just going to be sitting there like, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait a year. Get me to it now. Like, this honestly feels what Avengers Infinity War was going to be like to Avengers Endgame, and I'm really fucking hoping that Beyond the Spider-Verse can stick that landing that Endgame did, because if it does that, this Spider-Verse trilogy is 100% going to go down as one of the greatest film trilogies ever, without question. So all in all, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it is absolutely fantastic and sensational and everything I could want in a Spider-Man movie. Miles Morales is fantastic in this movie. I love seeing him continue to grow as Spider-Man. I love seeing his dynamic with his family. I really love seeing his dynamic with Gwen. I love seeing more of Gwen being developed as her own character here. The new Spider-Man characters we get into are fantastic. The old Spider-Man characters we get into, I mean, you know, Spider-Man, Peter B. Parker, who mentored Miles, he's back. He's everything we loved about him. I loved seeing the growth and the evolution of the Spot as this villain. It ended up being a sweet villain for the Spider-Man movie. In fact, I feel like he was the perfect villain for the Spider-Man movie. The action is intense, it's fantastic, it's exciting, the humor is great, it's hilarious, it's full of nostalgia. That is gonna make me want to watch this movie over and over and over again. The animation in this movie is pure spectacular art. The movie ends on a massive cliffhanger that has me hyped out of my mind for where else the story is gonna go. And I'm gonna go on the record for you guys right now. This is one of the best sequels I've ever seen. This is also the best animation I have seen since probably Inside Out. Is it the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen? It's 100% in the conversation, that is for sure. In the end, I said in my video talking about the announcement for Deadpool 3 that Deadpool 3 was easily going to be my most anticipated movie of 2024 or something like that. Well, now it's got serious competition on its hands with Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and that would not be the case if Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was not as amazing a movie as it was. Holy fucking shit, I loved everything about this movie. I can't wait to see this movie again. Like, I need to make that happen, and soon. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.